UFC Vegas 92 is coming up next weekend, and today, guys, I'm going to be breaking down the entire card from start to finish with timestamps if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. We're going to be talking about all of these fights, from breaking them down as much as possible. We're going to look at the betting side of things, but I will say in advance, I'm recording this video the Wednesday before you see it, so Odds Jam hasn't been on the ball for every single line yet, so some of the early prelims don't have any lines on them yet, so just know with that one. The main card, we're going to take a look at the bets for every single one. I'm going to be talking about the fighters that I want to win. Anyways, guys, like I said, if you'd like to skip to any part of the video, timestamps will be there if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Let's get into the first fight, that being Oumar taking on Antonio Trocoli. Now, it's a very, very interesting fight to break down because you have Oumar, who is both a very dangerous striker and grappler. He will want to come out and he will want to finish the fight right away. He is a KSW prospect entering the UFC, and here's the problem with Oumar. We don't exactly know how his technique that he's shown will translate to a guy that has UFC talent, and the problem is also there with Antonio Trocoli in saying we don't know exactly where he falls either, and there's perhaps a little bit even a bigger hurdle when breaking down Antonio's fights because he is a decent fighter. He has pretty good submissions, but the problem is that is also against unproven talent. And as soon as he moved to Legacy FC, it was all losses. And then he got out of that and he started winning again all of a sudden. But the problem is we have seen him on the Contender Series and he won that fight. But that was overturned because of a failed USADA test. Or I don't know if it was USADA for the Contender Series. He had a failed drug test. Doesn't really matter. So the question is he on the juice or not? I would doubt it if he's entering the UFC. That changes everything. How good is he going to look? There's a lot of questions about this fight. There's a big problem when picking it. I will lean towards Oumar for the pick. He does seem to be more dangerous. He is entering his prime, while Trocoli, we don't know, again, if he's on the sauce, and he's also exiting his prime. Other than that, the stats are very similar. I'm going to give it the edge to Oumar. He seems like the more dangerous fighter, and for who I want to win, honestly, guys, I would like to see Sai get the win. I'm not a big fan of cheaters, and I know I know that, of course, there's probably more cheating that nobody's ever caught yet, and there are also no lines for this fight at this time. But guys, let's continue on to the next fight. Let's keep going down the card to Tamires Vidal taking on Melissa Gatto. I am very interested to see Vidal back in the octagon because, of course, as you guys know, so many people were so high on her coming to the UFC, myself included. I've seen a lot from her, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't sitting here saying, like, oh my god, she's some world champion, but I was excited to see her because she's a fighter who comes forward and she wants to take you down. She does a very, very good job of doing so, though. She wings punches. She lacks a lot of technique on the feet. She can be powerful, but when she does get the fight on the ground, she is very, very technical. Does a great job transitioning, always attacking something. She is a pretty dangerous fighter once it gets to the ground. So she came into the UFC and got the flying knee KO, of course, right? And then everybody was like, oh my god, this girl's insane. Then we have the Montserrat Rendon fight. She is so sloppy and bad. That's what she showed to us. Got a split decision of Montserrat Rendon. But speaking of sloppy, we have Melissa Gatto. This is one of those fights where the striking exchanges are going to be absolutely horrible. But Melissa Gatto is a very, very strong fighter who wants to get you to the down. She wants to control you. She does a good job of doing so when she gets her hands on you. But the problem is, there's a little bit of a big if, okay? Here's another issue with the fight. Melissa Gatto is moving up a weight class for this fight. This fight is taking place at bantamweight. Is she going to look nearly as strong as we're used to seeing her? Is she used to fighting bigger girls like Tamires Vidal? That I don't know. I don't know, and I don't trust Melissa Gatto. I don't know what to think about this fight because both girls, I believe, are subpar, to be honest with you. Vidal definitely has the danger edge on the ground, but judging by Melissa Gatto's past fights, it wouldn't shock me Melissa Gatto took her down and just kind of controlled her and held her because historically she's been the stronger fighter, right? But again, she's moving up in weight. I don't know how that's exactly going to transition, especially with her type of style. If this is on the feet, anything can happen. Anything can happen. I don't think Vidal's going to throw another flying knee. Other than that, though, it's a very, very tough fight to pick, but because of the weight difference and the questions about Melissa Gatto moving up, I am going to pick Tamires Vidal to win this fight. And for I hope wins the fight, guys, I really, really don't care about it. Let's keep going to the next fight, though, and this fight has potential to be fight of the night, in my opinion. We have Alatengheili taking on Kleydson Rodrigues. I am always a fan of watching Kleydson Rodriguez fight. I'll start with him, man. He is an extremely well-rounded fighter. If you want to have him fight anywhere, he can do it, and he does it quite well. The only problem is he can be taken down. But even when you take him down, he has some pretty good defense. He can throw up submissions. He is very, very tough to finish in general. Now, Alatengheili, and I apologize, I usually pronounce his name wrong. I'm doing my best, and I know, guys, I get some comments down below talking about the way I pronounce these names. So I appreciate you guys correcting me on that because I do want to get them right moving forward. So I'm trying, guys. I apologize for that. But anyways, Alatengheili is a technical striker with a little bit of grappling. The only problem is, and he has a little bit of a glaring weakness in his game, that is if you drag him into a war, it seems like he consistently gets unsettled because he likes to take his time. He likes to slow down the fight, right? He can have a problem when you have these two, when somebody does that to him. And will Kleydson Rodriguez do that to him? I'm unsure. Kleydson Rodriguez can take the fight anywhere, so it wouldn't shock me if Kleydson Rodriguez wanted to suck him into a little bit of a brawl, but Kleydson Rodriguez is very technical himself. He can come forward, he can literally do anything. That's the problem, and one of those things could be brawl, but if you're as good as Kleydson Rodriguez is technically, will you want to brawl with Alatengheili? I don't know if that's necessarily the way to go about things, okay? I'm not really feeling too good about the way Alatengheili looked in his last fight against Chris Gutierrez because he kind of got dominated in that fight. The movement was a big problem for him. Kleydson Rodriguez, he can't exactly do the same kind of movement that Chris Gutierrez is. Kind of dances around, and I think Chris Gutierrez is a little bit overhyped myself. I was really high on Kleydson Rodriguez. I know he suffered a couple losses, like the CJ Vergara fight was really good. The Farid Basharat fight, it is what it is, but I'm still high on this guy. I still think he's a really, really good fighter, and I think he is a slightly better fighter than Alatengheili. I don't like that the Mongolian Knight relies on kind of one thing, technical striking, and wants to slow the pace of the fight down. I don't think that's necessarily a recipe for success, and the 16-9 record shows it. He's getting close to exiting his prime right now. Kleydson Rodriguez is entering his prime. He's still hungry. I'm not saying that Alatengheili isn't hungry, but I'm still feeling good about Kleydson Rodriguez in this one. I'm going to pick Kleydson Rodriguez. I don't know why I'm having such a problem breaking down this fight. It's just, I don't want to count out Alatengheili. You know what I mean? And of course, we still have another fight here where the odds aren't up at this moment, but for who I want to win, I also like Kleydson Rodriguez. I don't have too much of an investment on him, but he's always a really fun fighter to watch. Let's keep going on to the next fight, though, and we have the return of two fighters, which is very interesting for the division. We have Piera Rodriguez taking on Ariane Carnelossi, and we haven't seen Ariane in a very long time. I don't know how long it's been. It's been almost 2 years. That would explain it. 2 years since the loss to Lupita Godinez. So there's a question right now. Why were you sitting out so long in your prime? I don't know why she was out personally, but she is a very, very aggressive striker who wants to just come in and swing with you. And you know what? She does a good job doing so. She's 14-3, but the problem is it clearly doesn't always work out for her. She lost Angela Hill, but I don't know how much you really want to take a look at these records when you're getting into 4 and 5 years ago because we haven't seen her in over 2 years. I don't know how much these wins and losses really mean because she could be a completely different fighter. I don't know why she was off, but anyway, she's taking on Piera Rodriguez, who is a pretty good striker. She wants to come in and actually finish you. You don't see that a lot in this division, and the problem is she uses kind of calculated chaos to get her finishes. Something can always happen when you get sucked into a brawl a little bit, but she is fairly technical within the brawl. I know Ariane also kind of wants to do the same thing, so this should actually be a little bit of a firefight over here. But when these two start swinging, I would imagine Piera Rodriguez will use that calculated chaos. She will throw technique within the chaos to try to take your head off. She can explore ground options as well, Piera Rodriguez, but definitely wants to finish you. She is coming off of a little bit of a shocking loss to a lot of people, okay? She's been looking really, really good, but then she ran into Jillian Robertson, and Jillian Robertson submitted her. Jillian Robertson, and this was the big worry, and I remember talking about this too, and this is something that I was looking at with Piera Rodriguez. The problem is, she's looked pretty good in her fights, and she looks like a very dangerous fighter for the division, but look at the people she's fought just in her last 5. Especially Sam Hughes and Kay Hansen. Like, you're talking bottom of the barrel here. So anybody would look good against them. Jillian Robertson came in, and Jillian Robertson is just a little bit of a step above. And at the end of the day, I don't think Ariane is at that Jillian Robertson level where she can actually get the better of Piera Rodriguez. I would imagine that when these two step in here, They're kind of going to have a little bit of a slugfest. I don't know why Ariane's been off. I don't know how she's going to come back. I doubt she's going to come back better. At least we know what we're going to get with Piera Rodrigues, and I'm going to pick her to win this fight. I actually, usually for the women's fights, I prefer over 1.5 rounds, and I don't know how I'm feeling about that one, really. But for who I hope wins the fight, honestly, I don't really have an investment in that anyways. But let's take a look at what the odds are at for this fight so far, because now we can actually take a look at odds gem, because we have we have some fights to look at. Let me make my face cam a little bit smaller. Sorry, guys. I'm still getting used to all of my buttons over here. But you can see that it's a little bit of a close fight. Piera Rodrigues, a very slight favorite. I like that personally. Not enough to target it, don't get me wrong, because again, we still don't know why Ariane's been off, but it's a clash of styles, this one, man. Clash of styles. I'm going to pick Piera Rodrigues to get the win. Let's keep going on to the next fight, though, guys. That is Abus Magomedov taking on Walley Alves. This is a very important fight for both men in their careers here, because, of course, you have Walley Alves, who is 14-7, winning not a lot recently. But the problem is he has lost to pretty good competition. And Walley Alves is better than his record shows. He is a pretty good fighter, okay? Walley Alves is pretty well-rounded. He just doesn't always get the job done. He's typically finding himself finished or getting a little bit put behind in his fights. I don't know. He just hasn't been able to put it together, man. But Walley Alves still is a decently dangerous fighter. He's taking on Abus Magomedov, who is a powerful striker who can use some wrestling, but definitely prefers to stay on the feet, and he uses his length very, very well. Abus Magomedov. Everybody, including myself, and I made this mistake with Abus Magomedov because everybody was coming in, and when he first took on Sean Strickland, before Sean Strickland, he looked really good in a lot of his fights. He's a very, very dangerous fighter, and he still is a good fighter. I would say, like, he is an outside of the top 15 kind talent, but Abus Magomedov is better than what people are saying, like, oh my god, he's a can crusher, you know? I think he's better than that. So both of these guys, despite their recent performances, they are better than their records. Abus Magomedov is coming off of 2 really, really rough losses, but it's important to note that it's against really, really high competition, both in Sean Strickland and Kyle Baralho. Those fights have aged very, very well. This is a clear step down in competition, though, for Abus Magomedov in Walley Alves. It's unfortunate for Walley Alves because I still think that the UFC is trying to push Abus Magomedov for some reason. I don't know why, but I feel like they see something in this fight that I honestly see myself too, because I think Abus Magomedov should get the better of Walley Alves in this fight. I think that in this fight, he will definitely use his reach. He'll stay on the outside. He will hit him with power, and he could definitely put Walley Alves out. That's how I see this fight going, but the problem is, Abus, and we all know, has shown to have some gas tank issues in the past. Will that happen again? I can't exactly trust my money with somebody who is at that level of cardio, who we see sometimes just crumble, sometimes just get tired. All of a sudden, you're breathing heavy, and then Walley Alves can come back in the 3rd round. I think that has a decent possibility happening, but at the end of the day, I do believe that Abus Magomedov will use his length and catch Walley Alves. Walley Alves hasn't been able to put it together. I still like Abus Magomedov. And how he looked at a competition that wasn't Kyle Baralho or Sean Strickland, I think that he'll look like the Abus Magomedov that was so dangerous coming onto the scene again. I'm feeling okay about him in this fight, but again, Walley Alves, he could come back in the 3rd round, man. I will not count him out at all. For this fight, I believe this is the last fight on the card that doesn't have lines on it for it yet. But guys, if you're interested in seeing the lines, and I'm going to have a complete betting guide video coming out at the time you're seeing this is Saturday or Sunday. Should be coming out about Monday. Regardless, I'll be having that. I'll be covering all my favorites and my underdogs, everything, and just so stay tuned for that video. But for this fight, man, I hope Walley Alves can get it done. He is a very underappreciated fighter. I'd like to see him put it together and get a nice win. Let's keep going down the card to Tom Nolan taking on Victor Martinez. Wow, Tom Nolan's back. Tom Nolan, man. Okay. Speaking of fighters that everybody was high on, Tom Nolan is a very long and heavy pressure striker. He's very accurate and very technical, but the problem is he can be hit and can be taken down, okay? And hit he was, because coming into the UFC, everybody was so high on this guy. Got a great performance on the Contender Series, and then Nicholas Mana happened. This dude was the big parlay buster. Everybody was high on Tom Nolan, and he ended up getting knocked out. So it is important to note, while he is very long, very heavy, very technical in his striking, he can be hit and he can be taken down. And it was only a matter of time before that caught up to him. I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but it's important to note with Tom Nolan moving forward. He's taking on Victor Martinez, who is also a pretty good striker. I wouldn't say he's as good of a striker as Tom Nolan, but he also has a little bit of a big hole, and that being takedown defense. So both guys can be taken down. Makes me wonder if either of them are going to kind of explore that option. I don't really know. I doubt it, but it's there because I would imagine with both of these fighters, you can just charge forward, have a poor double leg, and I feel like you could get both of them down. Will they explore that? I doubt it, but still. Something to keep in mind. Victor Martinez is also coming off of his first UFC loss against Jordan Levitt, and that was also a shocking fight to a lot of people. I wasn't shocked personally in this fight. It's just like, both of these guys were pretty high coming into the UFC, and then they ended up getting stomped on. So both of them, it's a very, very important fight for their career. I am going to be on the side of Tom Nolan in this fight because, again, he's 24 years old. When he's on the offense, this dude looks like an absolute killer. And maybe after the knockout loss, maybe he'll work on his head movement a little bit. Maybe he'll work on I don't want to say he isn't safe, okay, because he's not, but his head's there to be hit, man. I'm just not saying he doesn't throw caution to the wind and comes forward. That's what I'm trying to say. But he's 24 years old. He will be continuing to improve. He is very big for this division. He's going to be 6'3", with a 3-inch reach advantage in this fight, and Tom Nolan does use his reach very well. So if he's fighting another striker in Victor Martinez, I would imagine he's going to get the job done. So I am still feeling good about Tom Nolan in this fight. For who I'd like to see win, I don't know. Both guys kind of need this win. I'm going to go for Victor Martinez a little bit. I'm going to cheer for Victor Martinez because Tom Nolan definitely has promise still, and nobody's talking about Victor Martinez. But let's take a look at the betting side of things over here. Wow, I did not expect that. Tom Nolan is a huge favorite. A huge favorite. I don't hate it. I'm just saying, I didn't expect the lines to be that bad. Okay, so maybe this is one that you definitely shouldn't be betting on. Let's keep going on to the next fight, though, guys. Let's keep going on to the next fight, that being Ramirez Brahimaj taking on Themba Gorimbo. We haven't seen Ramirez. Did I say Ramirez? I hope I didn't. Did I say? It doesn't matter. Ramirez. I'm going to say Ramirez. We haven't seen him in a long time. Over 2 years ago was his last fight. This is a toughie because there's another one of these really long layoffs, and he's coming back against a real killer in Themba Gorimbo. So, Ramirez, and why do I keep wanting to say Ramirez? Am I saying? I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. He is a great grappler with unfortunate poor striking and doesn't always show the best fight IQ. He's 10-4. He has, of course, and you can see in his last 5, he's win-loss, 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 win-loss. We've seen him in the UFC before, not against the best of competition, but at the end of the day, he is a very spotty fighter coming in off of a 2-year layoff. He's taking on Themba Gorimbo, who is a very good striker, who uses his range very well. Very good counter strikes, and he does a great job of keeping you at bay, taking his time. This dude is a very nice, methodical striker. He can knock you out. He can keep you at bay. He can outpoint you. Themba Gorimbo is very good at what he does. And honestly, guys, I would imagine he's going to do the same thing against Ramirez. Yeah, you know what? He is a great grappler, but I would imagine that Themba Gorimbo being more active, coming off of a really nice couple of wins that he has over here, especially against Pete Rodriguez. But I understand, like, the competition level for Themba Gorimbo isn't exactly anything to write home about. I would say it's better than Ramirez, but I just like what I've seen from Themba more, man. I just like what I've seen from him more. I like that he's active. He seems to be more hungry. And what's very important to note is Themba Gorimbo will have a significant reach advantage in this fight, and you don't want Themba Gorimbo to have a reach advantage on you because, again, he uses his range extremely well. I think he'll be able to keep Ramirez on the outside here. I think he'll be able to clock him, and I think he's going to get the win. For who I hope wins the fight, guys, I would like to see Themba Gorimbo win. I like him so far. He seems like a pretty wholesome guy, to be honest with you. But let's take a look at what the betting side of things look like. And you can see Themba Gorimbo is about a minus 230, 250-ish favorite. No, not 250. You see 250 at 1 over here. You can see him as a decently sized favorite here. And I honestly think that's fair. I don't think Themba Gorimbo is going to lose this fight. And honestly, it's someone that I'm considering betting on for this card. Spoiler alert. I'm not feeling too great about a lot of betting spots on this card. Very spotty card, and it'll only continue as we get into the main card. But guys, let's keep going on to the next fight. And this fight, I am not going to lie, guys, I'm one of the biggest fight fans out of there. I like in the entire MMA space, I swear. I love and live and breathe MMA. But I am not looking forward to this fight. We have Emily Ducote taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. I'm honestly kind of sick of people. I try to be so respectful with these breakdowns, man. Because again, what these people do is very respectable. It's infinitely braver than anything I will ever do in my life, okay? So I understand the position I'm in talking about it. But at the end of the day, I'm getting sick of people pretending that Vanessa Demopoulos is a good fighter. She is just your typical WMMA fighter. She's your typical low-level fighter. Same with Emily Ducote. You're not going to get much over here. She's sloppy. She doesn't do anything well. You could say kind of the same thing for Emily Ducote. It's just both of them are so. It's just. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be. I don't know how to say it. I'm not looking forward to this fight, and people are just simping over Vanessa Demopoulos. People look at her and go, "Oh my god, I love her energy. Oh my god, her smile." Ridiculous, man. Absolutely ridiculous. She's coming off of arguably one of the worst robberies I've seen in a very, very long time. The UFC's trying to push her too. I don't know, man. She's 10-5. Should be 10-6. Makes sense. But even then, she's had a couple questionable decisions in her past. Been in the UFC for a long time. We know what we're getting with him. But I feel like we haven't seen Emily Ducote in a while. 6 months, but still. I don't know. I don't know how this fight's going to go, guys. Emily Ducote hasn't taken on any good competition either. But I got to think that this fight will just be a little bit sloppy. It'll go to a decision, and the decision's going to lean towards Vanessa Demopoulos because you can get a click of Vanessa Demopoulos on a thumbnail. That's my guess. I hope Emily Ducote gets the win. I am tired of seeing Vanessa Demopoulos over here. I'm tired of people pretending like she is some title contender. It's ridiculous to me. Let's take a look at the odds. Vanessa Demopoulos is an underdog. That makes sense. Probably technical-wise, Emily Ducote is a little bit better, but still, I'm not. Emily Ducote is not anybody to ride home about either. I'm just not looking forward to this fight, guys. I'm sorry. Now, guys, before we do get into the main card, I want to take a minute and advertise the channel membership. It'll only take a minute, but if you really don't want to hear it, timestamps are there if you'd like to skip to the next part of the video. Anyways, if you are interested, because I talk a lot about betting. If you are interested in seeing where I actually put my money where my mouth is every Thursday or Friday before the event. Usually I bet on UFC, but of course we can break into LFA, one championship. If I see something that I like, I'm going to be betting on it. I will be posting it. I will have a YouTube community post along with a members only video explaining all of my choices for bets. So if you're curious to see what I'm betting on, or if you just want to support the channel, check the channel membership in the description, pin comment down below, or right next to the subscribe button, guys. I really, really appreciate you being here, listening to this, taking the time. I love talking about fights. I love betting on fights. So again, if you choose to support the channel, very cheap compared to other channels, I would greatly appreciate it. One more thing, if you like to use OddsJam, that's a tool that I love to use personally. Really shines if you have a lot of sports books. You can get a discount at OddsJam in the description. Pin comment down below. Use my link and code Clenbat, and you will get a discount if you sign up for OddsJam. Let's continue on, guys, to the main card. And for this fight, I am very, very interested to see the return of Adrian Yanez. He's taking on Vinícius Salvador, and both guys coming off of 2 losses after looking absolutely incredible. Adrian Yanez, people were talking about him being champion, of course, until the Rob Font fight, and then Jonathan Martinez he ran into. I'm very proud, by the way. High on Jonathan Martinez. Unfortunately, he lost to Jose Aldo, but people were counting out Jonathan Martinez in that fight. So Adrian Yanez really, really needs to put it together. Very important fight for him. He's a very technical striker with super fast hands and power to back it up. Vinícius Salvador, though, also coming off of 2 losses. I would honestly argue that it's a little bit more important for Vinícius Salvador to get the win over here because he broke into the UFC with a nice KO and then lost 2 fights after that. But I think that he lost to very, very good competition. I know people are a little bit touchy on CJ Vergara. I think CJ Vergara is great. I don't think he's going to be champion, but I think it's a very, very tough test for him, okay? Adrian Yanez, he's been in the UFC for a little while now. We kind of know what he's about, and he can always bounce back, man. This is a tough fight for both of them, honestly. Anyways, Vinícius Salvador is a very high-volume striker with long striking, uses his range really well. That's why it's going to be a very interesting fight. When he comes and clashes with Adrian Yanez, the problem is he can be hit easy. Vinícius Salvador is very, very good on the offense, but he does suffer when he's on the defense. And I think that's going to matter in this fight. I think it's going to matter because Vinícius Salvador, he can come forward and really, really use his striking to use a lot of pressure on you. I think I just sounded like an idiot there. Excuse me, stumbling over my words. I'm recording this video at midnight, so I'm very sorry about that. Anyways, when these two collide, I can see Vinícius Salvador coming out very, very aggressive. Adrian Yanez potentially catching him because Adrian Yanez has incredibly fast hands and power behind it. It's really tough to look at these fights because both of them, honestly, I believe both of them are pretty good fighters. I do. This is just such an important fight for both of them. I'm kind of stuck on this fight because we know that Adrian Yanez can be KO'd. Vinícius Salvador is the guy that could possibly KO you. But Adrian Yanez, I think it will just be a little bit faster, a little bit more crisp, a little bit more powerful. I'm going to slightly lean towards Adrian Yanez in this pick. I would love to know what you guys think about this fight down below because I am having a lot of trouble picking this one myself. So let me know what you think. And for who I hope wins, that's tough. I'm going to pick Vinícius Salvador because I think that he has to worry about his UFC career. I don't think Adrian Yanez necessarily has to worry about that again, but let's take a look at the odds. Adrian Yanez, a pretty big favorite. Honestly, I don't mind Vinícius Salvador as an underdog opportunity. I don't think I would hit that personally, but so far, Vinícius Salvador sitting at a pretty sizable underdog here. Let's keep going up the main card, though. Let's move on to Angela Hill taking on Luana Pinheiro. Now, this is another interesting fight because I don't know exactly how I feel about Luana Pinheiro in this fight, or like just in general, not necessarily in this fight, because she's a powerful striker. She has good takedowns and really good BJJ behind it. Okay, she seems to be a good fighter. And let's take a look at her last two, okay? I don't like getting a split decision against Michelle Waterson. I think Michelle Waterson sucks. So that wasn't nice. That wasn't a good performance anyways. But in the Amanda Ribas fight, somebody who is a clear step up in competition, I know she got finished, but it was a nice kickboxing fight and a nice display of skills for a fight in that division. And so she's coming off, and I know she's gotten wins before that, okay? She's looked pretty good, but the competition is very, very questionable. Very questionable. So she looked bad against the fighter who sucks, and she looked good against the fighter who is also good. I'm just a little confused on where I sit with Pinheiro. I'll need to see her fight a few more times, to be honest with you. Angela Hill is an all-round fighter who is okay. She's just not great anywhere. She's 16-13. The record says for itself. Sometimes she wins, sometimes she loses. She's one of the biggest gatekeepers in the sport, but I would argue she's not a good gatekeeper. I thought that she was actually putting it together in these two wins over here, but then she ended up getting demolished by Mackenzie Dern, and then she beat Denise Gomez, or however you say it. So you never know what you're getting with Angela Hill. Sometimes she'll just come out and it's like, oh, Angela Hill won. She shouldn't have won that fight. Very difficult. Like, we're talking about Derek Lewis. I don't know. I'm recording this video before the previous UFC card. It's like breaking down Derek Lewis. It's just sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses, and there's not a lot to look into that. I feel the same way about Angela Hill. No matter what the breakdown is, it's just, oh, Angela Hill got the win. Who could have saw that coming? You know what I mean there? I'm going to give Luana Pinheiro another chance to pick on her this time around because she is in her prime. Angela Hill's 39 years old. I don't want to say she's slowing down because she never necessarily had any momentum, but we're going to start seeing her get demolished soon. And I got to say that Luana Pinheiro at least has the better grappling. She is very, very strong there. I would imagine that you could kind of emulate the Mackenzie Dern fight a little bit, but Luana Pinheiro, is she as violent as Mackenzie Dern? I don't know. Very tough fight to pick. Very, very tough fight to pick. Who I hope wins the fight, though, I hope Luana wins the fight, guys. It's a lot better for the division. But let's take a look at the betting side of things. And actually, very interestingly enough, Angela Hill's a favorite here. This might be something I consider targeting, personally. I love Luana for her underdog odds right here. I'm not confident in her to get the job done, don't get me wrong, but if those odds stick around or even take off, something to keep in mind. Let's keep going up the card to the co-main event, that being the return of Chaos Williams taking on Carlston Harris. This should be a good fight. Chaos Williams is always really fun to watch. How long has it been since we've seen Chaos? Yeah, 11 months. Okay, almost a year. Chaos Williams, I don't know why he's been off for so long either. Guys, if you could clear me up on why these fighters have been off, I would really appreciate that. But anyways, Chaos Williams, very, very fun fighter to watch. But I'm not saying fun as in like he just comes in and brawls with you. He walks forward and he wants to knock you out. He has really, really crisp hands. He has really good low kicks. He's very good at what he does. When he comes forward, Chaos Williams can be very, very dangerous. But it doesn't always work out for him. He's taking on Carlston Harris, who is also, well, not also, he is a very well-rounded fighter. But the problem is, Carlston Harris can be sucked into a brawl. On the ground, he has decent submissions and he has decent wrestling, but it's nothing to go crazy about. Carlston Harris is just a pretty good, well-rounded fighter. Here's the problem. When these two match up, I can see Chaos Williams wanting to walk forward and not necessarily slug it out, but he'll want to come in and, of course, knock you out. Carlston Harris is the type of guy who can be, like I just said, sucked into a brawl. If Chaos Williams wants to make the fight a little bit dirty, I can see him having some success here. The power advantage definitely goes to Chaos Williams. But, you know, you see with Chaos Williams, though, he doesn't always put it together. Like, it's definitely not, he's not unbeatable, okay? But it's tough, man, because you don't know how long the layoff was and what it was for. I know it's just a year, but still, someone like Chaos Williams should probably be a little bit more active than that. Carlston Harris, he's 36 years old, almost 37 at this point. He's coming off of two pretty okay wins, but not even okay against Jeremiah Wells because He found an anaconda after just getting beat up the entire fight. I think that Carlston Harris will be slower in this fight. I think that the potential for his age to show is there. Chaos Williams is still in his prime, and I'm feeling pretty good about Chaos Williams potentially finding a KO over here. Carlston Harris, he's a good fighter, but I think that the power will be a difference here, and the killer instinct will be a difference here, and I'm going to pick Chaos Williams to win the fight. For who I hope wins the fight, I'd like to see Carlston Harris get the win over here because he's getting up there in age. I would still like to see him. I'd like to see him get the win. I really, really would. But let's continue on. Well, not continue on, but let's take a look at what the odds are at right now. Very, very close fight. Chaos Williams is another person that I would definitely consider targeting in this spot. Very interesting. Very, very interesting line right there. Let's move on to the main event, though. We have Edson Barboza taking on Lerone Murphy. Guys, Edson Barboza still killing it at 38 years old in this new division that he's been in. I know, can you really call it new now? It doesn't really matter. He's fighting in the featherweight division. Anyways, we all know Edson Barboza. He's a fantastic kickboxer with absolutely insane speed, but the problem is he can suffer under high pressure. He's taking on Lerone Murphy, an undefeated 13-0 fighter. He is a very, very good striker as well, with really good movement, and honestly, he has pretty good power behind it. I don't know if it's this is a problem. I don't know if it's necessarily power behind it enough to knock out Edson Barboza, because who knocks out Edson Barboza? But he is a very nice, lengthy, elusive striker. He's a very good striker, and this is why it's going to be a fun fight. I don't think that Lerone Murphy is going to explore the ground game with Edson Barboza, because honestly, that's been a path to victory against Edson in the past. Pressure him, grapple him. Edson Barboza is much better in his 24-11 record. If you're watching this, I would imagine you know Edson Barboza and the career that he's had. He has been through murderer's row of lightweights in the highest division, and a lot of people think the lightweight division is the toughest division in all of MMA. I'd personally give that to the UFC bantamweight division, but he's been through murderer's row. Even anybody this guy loses to is top competition, okay? He's coming off of 2 really, really good wins against Sadiq Yusuff and Billy Quarantillo. In the Sadiq Yusuff fight, he proved that he still has a 5-round brawl, heart, cardio. Everything is still intact at 38 years old. The day's coming where Edson Barboza is going to look old, but the day has not come yet. I would say he's a little bit slower than his prime, but still, the dude's insanely fast still. Insanely fast. I'm usually very quick to pick against the 38-year-old. I'm really, really quick on saying, okay, this guy's not going to get the job done. He's up there in age and he's slowing down. I don't think that's the case for Edson Barboza. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage in this fight, and he uses his range very, very well. Lerone Murphy has not fought in Edson Barboza. He has looked good in so many of his fights, especially his last one. But Edson Barboza is a different animal and a huge step up in competition. I'm going to be picking Edson Barboza in this fight. I don't know how I'm feeling about betting on this fight, because the day's coming where Edson Barboza's chin's going to crack, and the day's going to come where Edson Barboza looks old. Just recently, though, 6 months ago, he went through an absolute war, but then again, something like that could age you. I'm going to pick Edson Barboza. I'm feeling quite good about him in this spot. And honestly, guys, I hope Edson Barboza wins. I think Lerone Murphy has a very promising career ahead of him, and I would love to see Edson Barboza continue to win, because this streak that he's on is insane, and I would love, could you imagine keeps winning, gets a title shot against Ilia Topuria? I almost said Alexander Volkanovski. That makes me so sad. But let's take a look at the betting side of things. Edson Barboza at plus money. That's one that I will definitely consider. Definitely. But again, there are questions about Edson Barboza at this point in his career. Look, the odds show it. Lerone Murphy is a very, very promising prospect. If he can get past Edson Barboza, then that really says something about his career. Guys, thank you very much for watching the video. That was a lot of fun. I'm excited for this card. I will say, though, I'll be honest with you, if you're thinking about signing up for the membership, I don't see a lot of spots this week. I'm probably going to be a little bit inactive. Maybe there's some things in LFA I want to take a look at, but in case you're thinking about signing up, I just want to be completely honest with you guys. Maybe next week is the play. Thank you very much for being here, everybody. Check out the video on screen right now if you'd like to continue watching the channel. I will see you over there. Take care.